Well, welcome to another episode of the Leadership Academy, where we sit down with leaders and professionals and thought leaders talking about leadership strategies, talking about business building, talking about ways to improve your business, but also how to improve as a leader strategically. Whether it's strategically personally or strategically business wise, how to take your company to the next level, and getting some advice from those that have been out there doing it, and some practical advice that is applicable to where you're at today, and that you hopefully could be able to implement into your own business as you're going. So my name is AJ Willoughby, and I'm the host of the show. The show's sponsored by Titan Media Works with an X, and TitanMediaWorks.com, making it easy for podcast production. They are the easy button for getting your podcast going or guest booking services. So again, Leadership Academy. Today with us, we have got Clint White. Now, Clint is 30 years of experience in marketing and often extremely challenging circumstances. In addition, his role as a marketing consultant, he's also a teacher, an advisor, investor, writer, and business builder who leads campaign strategies for innovative, dynamic businesses and nonprofit social impact organizations. The list goes on as far as all the different areas he's been recognized. He's everywhere, all the way to the Obama White House official of public engagement on social impact media. He's won several Tellys, a leadership award for driving social change through media at the Social Impact Summit at the United Nations. So this is quite a bit of, that's quite a resume, Clint. Along with the fact that you are the founder and author also of the book Tattoos Not Brands, and the company Tattoos Not Brands. So, with all that, tell us, Clint, just well, first, welcome to the show, and glad
Thanks,
to
AJ.
have you here. So tell us a little
Likewise.
bit about what is Tattoos Not Brands.
Yeah, sure. I wrote this book over the course of around 10 years, during which I was practicing um, and learning really the right way to approach building a business, growing an audience, becoming a business or an organization that was recognizable and desirable for a target demographic or audience. So um, I started to see some trends, and I started to feel like there was some room for improvement in the way that this is done. So the main point is um, there's really probably only true there's really only about a couple hundred true brands in the world. The Apple, Nike, Disney, um, New York City, Madonna, things like that, Michael Jordan, etc. Things that 8 out of 10 people walking down any street in the Western world would know. That's great. It's great. It's great to have these type of things in our ecosystem. But the rest are not brands. They will never be brands. But they will be and are tattoos. And they're tattoos because it's not known to everyone, and it's okay, for a business or organization to have non-global awareness, because it takes generally several things to become a brand. Spending at least $2 billion in the marketplace,
Just a
having
small
a
amount, 2 billion,
yeah,
just a
yeah,
small amount.
and people are sometimes surprised about that, but that's what they do. They some spend 10, depending on the year, depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances or what the product line that Apple is rolling out. Um, they have a product or service that is in essentially everybody needs,
Hmm.
or at least the majority of the population needs or wants. Coca-Cola,
Right.
right? Um, there's sufficient time in the market for it to reach this level. Sometimes, and I say sufficient because it's not always, Coca-Cola's been around for 150 years and Apple has been around for less than 50. So, and Zoom, which is probably the quickest brand to establish itself, has been around, for a few years. So
Right.
sufficient time, sufficient circumstances. And then, something extremely special, something that is, a talent that is universally recognized. Michael Jordan, perfect example. There's very few equals to an athlete and a personality like that. So it has to have a magic to it. Disney has that. They figured out
Mhm.
something that is special. Is probably extraordinary. Now that's not to say any other basketball player, any other musician, or any other scientist is any less important than Einstein or something like that. They're a tattoo, and they have a niche, or they have a realm in which they live, which is more customized. It's more personal. It's limited in a way, and sometimes limitations are good, especially when you're in the position to build something. You have to have a set of milestones built around touchstones that will guide you there. And it doesn't always have to be to the moon.
Yeah.
Doing so relieves the sort of the unrealistic expectations that many things that I've seen and worked with feel. The journey becomes a lot more enjoyable once you have right sized your ambitions.
Yeah.
So that's the big idea, and the the way that we get there is essentially going back to basics. Lots of entrepreneurs forget concepts like the four P's. And you can play a fun game by breaking down the four P's of anything. Product, price, placement, promotion. They all have an, a massive role to play in any decision that you make. So I like to use that, and so it's one example of the going back to basics approach in psychology and things like that.
Yeah.
So
So
that's the sort of big idea.
so I want to dig into a little bit more on some of this, but before we do, tell us a little bit more on your background. How'd you get started in this? How'd you come up with these concepts and get to the place of the such high acclamations that you've achieved?
Yeah, well, thank you for viewing it that way. I did it the hard way, honestly. I have a you know um, degree in English and African American Studies, which is really means I just learned how to think and write and communicate. And my interest initially was in the arts, in arts management. So I've worked really in all over the course of 10 years. In the start of my career, I worked in a training and management capacity, marketing capacity with opera, dance, film, then visual arts. Then I worked for the government funding part of it for a minute, as they say, and then I applied the the stuff that I learned to being at an advertising agency, um, mid-size, you know, um, Manhattan advertising agency that focused on um, a lot of Broadway as well as other arts. And I learned the commercial side of how to make money doing that.
Mhm.
And after 10 years, I started my own agency, um, and that um, had its own, learning curve. And I had, you know, 10, 12 employees, a fancy office in Manhattan, and lots of great clients. And then COVID hit, changed everything.
Yeah.
It was a massive disruption, obviously, the understatement of the year. But for me, in the end, it showed that I can do. what I do in a much more, you know, back to basics approach. So I, sort of rebooted and started using my book as the platform to do consulting and do the work of an agency um, on my own. And then I also unlocked another sort of secret of how to lead dynamically in a contemporary way by partnering and building a firm that provides talent from um, primarily from Southeast Asia, from the Philippines, to do the work.
Yeah.
So that allows the margins to be better, allows the economic development of that region to be accelerated by having much better jobs, doing interesting things. So I'm really proud of that step set of steps that I've taken to get there, and I'm trying to collect some of this in a second book. That's I hope it doesn't take another 10 years, but it doesn't happen quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so let's talk then a little bit about businesses that are trying to get off the ground, and maybe they're a brand new business owner, or they're established but they realize that maybe they've hit a plateau and they need to go to another level for whatever reason. That the world of marketing is totally changed with AI and all the other aspects that's come into the place here lately, and people are looking at ways they can do things on their own, and then realizing where they're out of their league or in different stuff.
Hmm.
um so first off, I guess, as far as advice that you would have for the for those business owners that are in those positions of just getting started or realizing that they need to break through, what advice do you have at the beginning there?
Yeah, you got to start at the beginning. When you're at the beginning, there's no shortcut. You analyze what you have in the four P's. What is your product? How is it priced? Um, how is it distributed? You know, that probably has the most sort of dramatic, um, what's the right word? Transformation. The concept that you can get essentially anything, anytime is one that, I have kids that are 12 and 15. They've never lived in a world where you can't have anything immediately. So
Mhm.
distribution becomes a major part of your offering, whatever it is. And then promotion, how are you going to, how are you going to make people aware of it, which is always the first step. No awareness, no customers, no business. So like I was saying before, a lot of people don't even don't even think about that. They may um, you know sort of do the um, ready, fire, aim approach, and
Mhm.
it can be costly. So as you and I were saying before we started, if I can help people make less mistakes and be um, learning from the mistakes that others made, they'll have a great leg up on those that those that they learn from. Um, so that first step is one I really advocate for. And then there's questions that need to be answered, like why. Like if you choose a price, why is it based on competition? Is it based on perceived value? Is it something that you've tested? All these things need to be tested and confirmed and analyzed in a kind of real time way.
Mhm.
Sometimes you know things are underpriced, services or products. So it can go either direction of overpriced, underpriced, and the market will tend to tell you what the right price is.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I think the other big foundational piece is, starting a business with clients is a lot better than starting one without.
Yeah.
It can be psychologically very traumatizing to, be sitting around waiting for, for the customers to come in. So do as much uh, preparatory work to start with a flow of customers.
I think that's a really key thing right there. I see so many uh, new business owners. They've got an idea and they get in,
Hmm.
um, and they're putting everything together, and then they forget about the fact of okay, now I'm all set up. Now I got to get my clientele, but the sales cycle sometimes can be 60, 90, 120-day sales cycle, and
That's
then they're
true.
sitting there for 3 months with nothing other than I've got this, but now I can't do business because I don't even have my first client.
Hmm.
And to realizing that that is an important aspect, you need to start cultivating that immediately,
It's
you
true.
know, and build your
Yeah,
business around it.
exactly. Don't even start until you have that. I mean, frankly, I didn't. I wouldn't recommend, you know, starting so cold that it's going to, the psychology of starting a business is the thing that I'm writing about next, and learning from much less about me and the things that I've seen, but more about how you know founders have dealt with um, the mindset of taking the journey, an entrepreneurial journey, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So let's go in just a little bit about the book. So, tattoos, not brands. First off, I guess branding versus marketing. I think people get a lot that concept confused. They look at it one and the same. And tell me your perspective on that aspect.
Sure. Well, branding is a process of heating a piece of iron up to you know several thousand degrees, and in taking a shape and putting it on the skin of an animal. So that is it's an extremely brutal. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying it's a brutal process, and branding is just that. Branding takes the heat of resources, of money, of creativity, of patience, to get to a point where, or circumstances for you to actually have to be one of the few hundred brands in the world. So um, that is insisting on staying, in the headlights of the people, the customers that make sense for what you're doing. Um, so you really can't talk about that, or you can't say you're a brand unless you do that, and very 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 few people actually do it. um, However, if you you know want to grow, if you want to excel at your field, then you manage the four P's. You set goals based on benchmarks, based on projections that are your own doing. You're setting your own tone. All of the planning work is in your purview. So if you do the homework, then um, to me that's step one in marketing. Then you're managing the pricing and the distribution and the investment that you want to make in promoting it. So um, I mean, marketing is the set of activities that go towards selling, and
Mhm.
that's really all it is. And there's paid, earned, and owned media that you have to manage to do that. You know, the probably when if you're starting a business with limited resources, then you know you have to earn the interest of people. Let's say
Right.
it's you know I don't know, what do we want to pick? I'd hate to I'd hate to saddle anyone with a retail business these days, or a restaurant or something like that. But you know, let's say it's a donut shop, and I thought of opening a donut shop and kind of copying a formula that I saw in another state, in another area. Um, and then so you think about it, you say, well, if you know, I live in New York City where everything is stupid expensive, so to rent a little shop is like $5,000 a month. And then you know XYZ, you need people to run it, you need insurance, and you know I looked at that and said I would have to charge $10 a donut, and I don't think that people are going to pay that. So and then so and another person would look at that and say, okay, I'm down. I'm gonna make the world's first $10 donut, and I'm gonna make this thing work, and I'm gonna actually I'll serve coffee too, which is extraordinary margins, and but that so my you know my passion meter there went out the door when I saw that my version of the four P's wouldn't work. But somebody else could take that same thing and say, well, I'm not going to do it at the $5,000 space. I'm going to find, you know, I'm going to work with a bar that doesn't open until 5 and convert it into a donut shop at a window before while it's closed. You know, those are all creative ways to adjust the product, think about the pricing, and then, you know, earn, you know, make a really darn good donut that you can charge $10 for. And, you know, it's all possible. You just have to manage it properly and really be committed to it, making
Yeah.
smart decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's, you know, great. The whole concept of what you're saying, look at it differently. Look at maybe the shop, having your own shop isn't the ideal value, but then partnering with a bar or something that's open in totally different hours. Um, that's a great, just a way of finding the challenge and working around it. That makes it work for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it's I think this second book is very much about that, and breaking the rules, you know, breaking the rules, or instead of assuming that there's one way to it sounds so simple when I say it out loud, but people don't do it. It's shocking. You see, you know, there's a restaurant on my block here, that you know, if a donut shop is $5,000 a month, I can only imagine this place would be, you know, 15, 20K a month. Um, and it just felt so off, you know, the menu, the decor, they hadn't thought it through, and it wasn't good, and it opened
Yeah.
and closed within a year, and it's a shame to see that, you know, $500,000 just lost because they didn't think about it.
Oh yeah.
They didn't think about it. So
Yeah.
there's versions of that everywhere.
Mm. So, Tattoos Not Brands, the book that you've written, what is give us one concept real quick from the book that has something applicable that people can uh, take and think about as they're growing their businesses right away.
Sure, there's one concept called magnets, not mirrors. So oftentimes you'll see the way a business organization presents itself as a product. Like you'll see, um, you know, I don't know, airline. They'll show airplane taking off or flying beautifully in the sky. When really you have to think about the things that are going to draw you there? What are the magnets that will get you to a decision-making point? And generally, that comes down to user experience, the idea of UX. To me, UX is not the way you get through an app, but it's the way you feel before, during, and after you've experienced something or bought something.
Hmm.
So thinking about those two things, I think is simple, but a game changer to use psychology to think through um, how somebody is going to feel,
Hmm.
why they care about it. You know, any airplane can fly beautifully through the sky, but you know, and the airline industry is a mess. I know they're all kind of, to my mind, you know, they're relatively the same, but when they start, they usually stick with that idea that this is, you know, something is going to be better than the rest, which is a magnet. And then
Uh-huh.
I think they get lazy and they um, don't, they don't have a commitment to keeping that experience positive before, during, and after. And that's really um, the whether it's a donut shop or an airline or a beverage or you know a museum. Um, you have to approach it from the mindset of your customer, not from an you know not looking at the mirror, looking yourself in the mirror.
Right. Yeah.
Is that
That's great.
helpful?
That is very helpful.
Cool.
That is really good. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I look forward. So, granted, I want to dive into the book, but I'm also hearing a lot of things that's of what you're talking about. Your next book that's coming out uh, that I'm going to be interested to to hear more on. So, when is your next book going to be done?
Next year probably. It takes a while.
Yeah.
Takes a while, but the I guess the news on this book is the Spanish translation. I have the printer's proof right here, so this will be in bookstores everywhere and Amazon next month in Spanish.
Oh, that's great. So.
Yeah.
So that'll be really good, you know. So getting that and that having that bilingual like that
Hmm.
actually I think does open up a whole another market in
Yeah.
there. So well,
Cool.
Clint, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, AJ. My
Just getting
pleasure.
the advice and the wisdom that's come from you, someone that the experience that you have has been really nice and
Yep.
really good.
Keep it
So
simple. Keep it simple. I'm
yeah,
glad I could join you.
absolutely. So again, this has been the Leadership Academy. My name's AJ Willoughby. We've had Clint White with Tattoos, Not Brands is the name of the book. And so if you get a chance, check out the book, check out a little bit about what's going on with Clint. And Clint, as far as best way for people, if they've got questions or want to seek you out for some counsel or help, have you help with their business,
Yeah.
what's the best way for them
Happy
to
to
do that?
help. Our website is tattoosnotbrands.com. There's a contact site there, or look me up on LinkedIn.
All right, great. Well, thank you again so much. Again, Leadership Academy is brought to you by Titan Media Works, the easy button for podcasts and guest booking services. So if you have needs for doing podcasts, then check them out. Titan Media Works, works with an X on the end, WORX.com, and they can help you. Thank you, Clint, and we'll talk to everybody next time.